creating the world we're now living in. We are competing in. We are repeating in. We are believing in. It's time for us to shift our mind from best in the world to best for the world. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. It creates a new world to mind a shift, intentionality, perceptuality, conceptuality. We are choosing to shift our mind to best for the world, best for our world. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional.
Good evening, everybody. For the next 30 to 50 minutes, we are going to talk about how sustainable change comes from within. And my name is Thomas, and I have a company called Abintus Consulting, and I work with self-leadership and developing leadership behaviors. Together with me, I have my friend and colleague. Please.
Morten Hedin is my name. I have also a company called Hedin X Formation. I've been doing personal development and coaching services for the past 5-6 years, and my background is within the IT sector. So I've been about 20 years having various, let's say, leadership roles in that industry, and focusing the past years a lot on the personal development and based on emotional intelligence. That is my primary, let's say, focus.
Yeah.
So,
and we're going to talk about sustainable change, and the question is then why do we want to talk about sustainable change at this moment of time? And I think everybody has noticed the situation that the world is in. There's been a great external influence, and we have made a lot of changes in our societies and in our behaviors to respond to that external influence, being it the virus. That has led to change behavior to solve the immediate situation. Now, if we want to prevent any consequences that might come up again in the future, we need to put in sustainable changes. Isn't that so?
yeah. So this session will be about the sustainable change. I mean, change is something that we have to live with, and what we are going to talk about is the sustainability within the change. So I know that we will tell you how we see that topic. Yeah.
The first thing we like to do is to in a sense, to ask ourselves what kind of change are we aiming about, and what we want to talk about is more or less any change, being it painting your room in a different color, or changing a behavior, or changing a value or a belief. It doesn't really matter. So change for us is anything where we want to go from point A to point B in behavior, in environment, in anything. The way we define the word sustainable, we come that it's if something is sustainable, it's something that becomes a natural part of us, something that we will do naturally. We don't have to think about it. So you could maybe see that as a habit. And if we want to make a change, and that change should become a habit, how do we create that? How can we create such changes? So what do you think, Morten? What do we need to create sustainable changes?
Yeah, I know that you have at least a couple of dimensions that you would like to talk about. I know that the purpose is one of your core things that you believe is the, let's say, the foundation, isn't it? So the purpose.
Yes, I think so. It's Simon Sinek says it starts with the why. I think it's a very good place to start with. Why do I want to make a change? What is the purpose of that change? From my point of view, the purpose must affect everyone who is. The purpose must involve everyone who is affected by the change. And they have to understand that purpose, and they have to understand that value. But if we don't have a why, or an answer to the question why, it's very hard to reach.
Mm-hmm.
That is the main starting point of the sustainable part of the change in my world.
Yeah, and what about values? Are those important?
Well, I think if you and I have very different core values,
Mm-hmm.
and we have a purpose that we want to fulfill by doing a change, the way we want to make the change will be affected by our core values.
Mm-hmm.
You want to go to the right, I want to go to the left.
Mm-hmm.
So which way do we take? Or if we don't share the core values, it will be very hard to make that change sustainable, or even to actually make that change.
Okay. So you need the purpose, you need some type of understanding, you need some type of values. Is that enough?
Mm-hmm.
Or anything more?
Well, I would say you need to have a belief. If we say belief in that we're doing the right thing, that would be more of connected to the value. But you also have to have the belief that it is possible to do, that we could actually execute the change. For practical reasons, that we have the competencies, the abilities, and the resources to implement the change and make it last. So that would be another parameter.
Yeah. So everything all together creates commitment if you have all these things together, isn't it so?
Yes, I mean if you have a purpose that you share with people, and you create an understanding together with the people, with a discussion, with dialogue, you share information, you will have a collective understanding as well as you have a collective purpose, a common understanding. If you add the core values that we share,
Mm-hmm.
then you have another common aspect of the tools that you need to make the sustainable change.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to make a change in a society or in an organization, and you have few people sharing values, so you have two sets of values dominant, it will be very hard to make that change sustainable, because there will always be powers that will drag to the left, to the right, or I'm not talking left and right politically, just for illustration. So you have to have congruency of your values, yeah.
Yeah. So do you see this equally important in the individual level and also in the organizational level and in society overall? Is it the same type of dimensions and concept that you see is equally important in all of these different contexts?
I think so, yes. I think that I need to see the purpose. Let's see, I want to change something about myself. I need to have a clear purpose of that. I need to understand the value and the process of making the change must be congruent with my own values, with what I feel.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't do that as an individual, and you try to change something, you know the purpose is okay, but it's somewhat against my values. Mm-hmm. Let's say, for example, I want to reach something, I want to become a millionaire, but I will probably make some people poor on the way there, mm-hmm. just as an example. Then it wouldn't match my values because I don't want to make people poor. Mm-hmm. It's very simple or simplified example. So I would say the set of tools that you need to have, or the aspects you need to go through, the questions you need to ask yourself, is the same if you're looking at a personal change, or change in your organization, or if you look at society. Mm-hmm. There must be a large common consensus about the purpose, understanding, to be able to move it further and to make that change sustainable. And I think
that's a good description. I noticed that you mentioned the ability. You need to have the abilities to do whatever this change is supposed to do. So how important is the abilities compared to those other dimensions?
Well, you need to have, let's call it kind of the practical, a lot of practical parts.
Yeah,
of
you
it.
need to have the skill set.
The
toolbox
set, yeah.
skill set.
Yeah. And also we mentioned belief before, and I mean, a lot of us has some kind of limiting beliefs within ourselves.
Yeah.
That I'm not good at this, or I'm not good at that, and I couldn't do this and I couldn't do that. Mm. That is just a belief.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, if you ask, what I want to say with that is, when you ask these questions, the answer you come up with spontaneously isn't necessarily the way it is, or it has to be. Because new information, new understanding, new input could change your belief. And you suddenly understand that, hey, why shouldn't I be able to do this? Mm-hmm. So the abilities, the same thing is you could change your values. They're pretty deep, so you have to work a lot on changing those, but over time that could happen as well.
Yeah.
So nothing of this is static, but there's a potential of development in all aspects.
Yeah. Yeah, and it seems like, as you mentioned, the purpose and all these values, they are a little bit deeper, and then you have, of course, the abilities that are the more, what you can say, the operational things. You need to be able to do things sometimes,
yes. Yeah.
But if you don't have the more deeper things like the belief system and the values and the why, it's not sustainable, if I understand you correctly.
That's what I think, yeah. That's what I think.
So do you have any example of when you have, let's say, used this type of concept and so on that you could share?
Well, in a sense, I used the concept maybe without knowing it, but when it was long ago when I started to work in let's say a company management position, and we had a situation on the market that the market was growing, but the prices were going down, and our capacity in the company hit the ceiling. And we knew that the prices were going down, so if we continued to produce whatever volume we could, we would lose money at the end. And that was, of course, not a good prospect. So we defined a project, an expansion project. The purpose for that was to secure the company's future and to secure the employees' employment for the future, which was quite a good purpose, I think. We were also producing good products which saved heat, so saved energy. So by expanding, we would that's my perception of it, we would actually be doing something good for the environment. So we have the shared purpose. Nobody had a problem with the fact that we need to expand to be able to survive in the long run.
So what just interrupting there, was there an urgency? Was this situation urgent, or how urgent was it? Was it a sense of urgency in the company, so to say?
I mean, we were earning money, the market was growing. The urgency was not, let's say, financial. It was more of a marketing position, because if we would expand in time, and we were just in approaching high season, if we wouldn't have increased capacity in that high season, someone else would increase their capacity or be better at it, and therefore taking that market share. So for the moment, if we would expand, we would not take a market share from someone. We would just not, let's say, reserve our market share in the increasing market. So
okay, but the purpose felt like it was something that you could share all together in the management team, or whatever you
yes, I mean,
call it there. Yeah.
Let's say the purpose was shared by the owners, because they wanted us to grow and of course make more money. Our employees, definitely they want to keep their employment.
Yeah. So they felt that this was good for them.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And what role did you have in this?
What role I had?
Yeah, in the company.
Well, I was sitting as the MD for the company at that time.
Yeah.
So I was kind of in the middle, trying to get the resources, secure the abilities, organize the project within our company, all the processes and so on. And
so this dimension of understanding, how was that? You have described it already a little bit, but it feels like the understanding part of this was quite easy for the people to understand what you were doing.
Oh yeah, they understood what they were doing, and we had a very good communication. We weren't very large. We were like 25 people.
Mm.
So there was a lot of communication with everyone.
Mm.
And we defined a project team. We made sure that everyone knew what their tasks were, what the value they were bringing during this process.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them were just doing what they always done, because we didn't want to stop production.
Yeah.
We didn't want to stop taking orders. So the plan was, which is one of the biggest challenges, was to keep everything going at the same time as we actually double the production capacity, double the size of the production facility, and lay down a new floor. So there was a lot of things to be coordinated and organized.
Okay.
And the fact was that there were a lot of discussions. We spoke about belief before, and abilities, and there was a lot of discussions regarding, let's say, our internal company limiting beliefs. We can't do that. We that is really tricky in such a short time with the circumstances we have. But through good communication, from taking in ideas from everyone in the company, how do we solve this? How do we solve that? Say a dialogue with more or less everyone. Of course, some were more active, some were more passive. But we ended up in creating that belief ourselves.
Okay, how long time span are we talking about here to make this happen?
Well, I would say we had 2 months on planning and 1.5 months on actually executing the project from doing 100% to be doing twice as much.
Okay.
And have the building, everything, facility, everything settled.
So the success factor in terms of changing the beliefs of these people, what would you say that was? Communication, I heard you mention. Was it like a lot of communication that was necessary to make them believe that they were able to do this?
Yes, I mean, if I would come to you and I would have limiting beliefs, and you explain to me that I hear what you're saying, I see the issue, but we have a couple of solutions possible. Which one do you think, or do you have I have 2 here possible solutions. Do you have a third? Or what is your view on the other 2? So by listening in and taking in information and knowledge and ideas, that would make things possible. And because of the dialogue, I wouldn't be able to walk down to the shop floor and say, this is what we're going to do, here's how we're going to do it, that's it. Now believe me.
Okay.
I don't think.
You don't think that works?
I don't think that works, no.
No. So instead, something else.
So instead, something else. We create that belief together by solving and by getting involvement of everyone. Everybody has feels that they're contributing. Yeah,
So
in some way. In some way.
Did you feel like the values also were developed during this phase, the common value set, so to say, in the group?
Well, of course, if you work very close to people and you engage them, then maybe we're not discussing values, but in discussing other matters, the core values are shown, or they sip through.
Yeah.
Now, we didn't have, as I said, we weren't hurting anyone, we weren't doing any radical things, we just, the purpose was great. In a sense, there wasn't much, excuse me, there wasn't much to attack on that. We didn't even hurt the competitors directly because we were taking free market share. So, but of course the core values, if I say that everybody had core value that I always do my best, well that wasn't the case. But they were all doing a lot. They were doing more than they would have done, like more input of themselves a year earlier.
So what about the abilities then? Was it like you had to help them with new skill sets or abilities, or how did that part work?
Well, I mean, this. I had the great luck to get a lot of good people close to me. I mean that worked in my core team. and they had worked in a completely different business than the glass business which this was in. Me myself was new in the glass business as well. Now, when this project was happening, we had a couple of years together already, and just the fact that no one is playing the game of being the smartest one all the time makes you feel quite comfortable. You work in an environment where you don't have to be the smartest to save your position, either as save your ego or save your professional position. It wasn't under threat. And if there was something that we expanded, the market expanded, it was in Eastern Europe, it was a very new market economy, everybody was learning.
So the commitment was high. You managed to have a high commitment level on this.
Well, I did, and they all did. And I mean, I loved this. This was so exciting for me to be working in and having this opportunity to expand the business and so on. So I was committed. I had no issue with that. But the beautiful thing was that with all these discussions, with all these planning, and with all these change of views and ideas and everything, there was a common commitment. And as I said, even with people who didn't have a broad skill set, well, they were doing their job that they were supposed to be doing plus a little bit more. So yeah, no, that was a great project, and I think looking back at that and looking at the let's say call it the model we have, that we need a purpose, we need a understanding, we need congruency with our values, we need the abilities and everything. I didn't think in those terms in back then. But when I looked back some years ago, why was that project so successful? I started to understand all the bits and pieces. Now, this is of course from my point of view, and there are many different aspects and that can be discussed. But from my point of view, this is what I found when I looked at that project and started to analyze how the hell did we manage that. So that was fun. That was really fun.
I noticed you mentioned this was in Eastern Europe or somewhere, or what part? The cultural thing, was that important in this project? So to say?
Yes, I mean this was in the Czech Republic. It was. I came there 2 years after the Velvet Revolution. There was a lot of differences compared to Sweden. Let's put it that way. And one of the big differences was maybe the type of management. But I'm not really sure, because I was not in the management position in Sweden before I went to the Czech Republic. So, but if I say, let's say I don't know if there was a big difference, but what I do know is that, for example, management by fear was very common. I mean, a lot of bosses were not followed. They were pushing people. They were threatening people, and as we from my point of view, management by fear is that is creating an external impulse to make you change or to make you do something. When that impulse is gone, then I stop doing it. So I can't create a sustainable change with that type of management. And I think the same thing is if we talk to today's situation with the virus.
Yeah.
When we have the whole globe has changed. We have put in so many restrictions. We have made so many steps to stop this from spreading. But that's not a sustainable change. Our economy is falling down in all countries. we're being told not to meet other people, which is I think a reasonable thing to do right now to avoid the social contact and so on. But when the virus or when the disease goes down, we won't stop, we won't stay in having those changes forever. So these changes, the sustainable changes, again, they have to come from within, from me as a person, from you as a person, from us as a team, from us as an organization, or from us as a society, and hopefully will end up from us as humanity.
Yeah, I think it's good, nicely put, and it seems like this vulnerability that this society actually has. It has been very clear, of course, the past months, that we as a society is very vulnerable. So I also hope that this sustainable change, that we really can go into a phase where we think of what is needed, not only on the individual level, but also all these type of politicians and every people with power all over the world to really think of what is needed to be able to go forward in a more sustainable way, having learned the things that we will have to learn the coming months here. It seems like we have a lot of learning in front of us.
I think so, and I think that one of the insight is, as I had with this project of mine in the company, I could have never made that alone. No chance. I could never have made that change by running it or use power to get it done. That wouldn't have worked. It would have failed in so many ways. The project would have maybe be finalized, but it would never have been sustainable from that type of approach. And therefore, I mentioned the word togetherness before. You said someone else already took it, but I still want to say that.
You can have it.
Thanks. I borrow it from whoever it was. I think togetherness is a very, very strong key word in this matter. If we want to develop and if we want to develop in the right direction and start getting back in harmony with nature and with getting into harmony with all the people, that says itself, we need to do it together. We can't order it. We can't just decide for someone else.
Okay, so I've got a new microphone here. Does it does this work better? Yeah, perfect. So what about emotions? Do you have any example even more of these basic emotions? How you can use emotions to drive this motivation for change even better? I mean, we are emotional guys.
We are. We're
emotions are important.
Yeah, they are. I mean, again, you could intellectually understand that something is not good for you, but the intellectual understanding doesn't necessarily. I would say it doesn't. But someone might have another opinion. From my point of view, if you don't feel it's right, if you don't find the emotions to drive the action, then you will never do the change, even if you intellectually find it necessary to do or useful to do. That's how I would see it.
Okay. So, do you want to wrap up this, let's say, the sustainable change again? How would you, let's say, summarize it again from your viewpoint, how you see the most important thing?
I would say the most important thing is to clarify your purpose and really understand what you want to achieve, and ask yourself if that's congruent, if that matches your values, and make a checklist on your beliefs. What beliefs support you in this purpose or in this ability? What does not? What values support? What values do not? And if you, for example, find out that you don't have all the abilities to be able to do this, well, learn them. All the knowledge is out there. So if you want, there are a lot of people who knows the thing that you don't, and I think many of them are willing to share their knowledge.
Yeah, there is a lot of knowledge out there. I've seen YouTube. You can learn almost anything.
That's true.
Okay, so what's the next step in this evening session here, Thomas?
Well, we wanted to go back a bit to the current state, and we talked about emotions now. I think there are a lot of people that are not feeling really well for the moment. So we were talking about what could we take into this broadcast that could make maybe be of concrete help, some tools to use to feel better.
Yeah, I think that could be a very good idea. And we discussed a little bit earlier about this United Nations, these global sustainable development goals, and one of them is actually focusing on the good health and well-being. So yeah, for both of us and for me, I think the well-being is always important, because it is actually something that you can practice, so to say, your own well-being. I've had opportunity to take a course that is called the Science of Happiness, that you can find at Berkeley University. It's a distance type of thing. You don't need to go there. And there is a lot of science within the positive psychology that have been coming forward the past, let's say, 20 years. So happiness as such, there is certain numbers. If it's 40% or 20%, that different scientists fight a little bit about. But if it's 40 or 20, there is a certain percentage of happiness that you actually can practice, more or less. I mean, you have your life circumstances, you have also your heritage. Your parents have given you some input that you cannot change that input.
It's that genetic.
That's genetic, yeah.
Okay.
I've heard it, yeah. I think it's so. It works like that. And but still, about 20 to 40% of your happiness in some way depends on your own thoughts and your own, let's say, practices, how you decide to look into what is happening into the world. So even if we have a very, very difficult time right now and the coming maybe weeks and months, you still have the opportunity to use your mind and your thoughts to try to do your best, at least to feel as good as you can, even during very, very hard times.
I mean, if I choose to look at things, let's see. I mean, there is a situation in my life, or the state of my life for the moment, and I choose to look at it in a different way. With I think of it in a different way. Will that improve my emotions? Will that make me feel better?
Yeah. Your thoughts, if you can make yourself think in a certain way, that will definitely affect your body. You can affect your emotional state quite a lot by doing various things. I mean, mindfulness, as an example, has been studied a lot the past also 20 years. So simple exercises just like breathing can make you feel much more calmer and everything. So there is many different various things that you can use. And what I found, I for some reason sometimes I use Facebook. I don't know if you have you heard of that? It's a social type of networking
Facebook,
thing.
yeah.
Facebook, yeah.
Yeah.
And you have various groups that you can follow, and this science of happiness thing. They have a group for those that has taken that class. So I read a post over there talking about a specific model called the PERMA model. It's a Professor Martin Seligman that has let's say developed this model, and it's for well-being. It's 5 different dimensions that you can practice in order to optimize your own well-being, and that model of course can be used also during more difficult times. It can be used in normal times, and it can be used in more challenging times, so to say. So
I would suppose that wherever you are, you could always feel a bit better.
yeah,
So you could always use this model to improve.
yeah, definitely.
How you feel.
I mean, and that means to okay. So to wrap up, it's only a couple of minutes left. So the model in such focus on 5 things. I can just mention them. It's the focus of your own positive emotions, like gratefulness and joy and stuff like that.
How could we just shortly, because of the time, what could we shortly, concretely think about right now from that aspect?
From that aspect, it's really to think of everything that we actually has in our lives, like, you know,
friends,
with your family, everything that we
roof over my head
right now have. Yeah, exactly. Relationships, engagement is the second part. We will have to go quickly through them. Engagement just to engage in those things that you become happy of. If you, for example, like gardening, do gardening. If you like to go out running, do that. Do things that engage you and gives you flow. So
gives you energy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Relationships is the third thing. Really focus on those relationships that you have and try to connect as much as you can. And
find people who gives you energy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm really trying to have time to say how many seconds, 30 seconds, and counting. No, but the meaning, the fourth is M, the meaning, and that's really to figure out how can I contribute to a higher purpose in this time, to actually connect with maybe new groups of people that can help your elderly in your community to buy things from the store and everything. And the fifth is the accomplishment, to celebrate actually what you accomplish. The brain and yourself, you always feel better if you have certain things you want to do and you actually achieve them, you accomplish them. So the 5 things: the positive emotions, engagement, relationships, the meaning, find the meaning, and the accomplishments. That is the 5 dimensions that you can focus now when you have a little bit more challenging times, but also in the more normal time period, to have a higher level of your own well-being. So
own well-being and own energy.
Exactly.
Great.
So any final words from you, like the sustainability thing, or?
No, I think I would wrap it up from my side. That thanks for watching and listening, and thanks to Emprogage for making this possible. It's been a great experience, and I hope that you got something out of this, the time spent with us, and that you have something to think about when this show is over. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We are creating the world we're now living in. We are competing in. We are repeating in. We are believing in. It's time for us to shift our mind from best in the world to best for the world. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. It creates a new world to mind a shift, intentionality, perceptuality, conceptuality. We are choosing to shift our mind to best for the world, best for our world. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional.